All right, today I'm going to show you how I mixed the kick for my Lost in the Static drum cover by After the Burial. I went for a super punchy, in-your-face, aggressive, clicky kick drum sound, and a lot of people seem to like it. I got a couple funny comments from it, and a bunch of people asking me how I mixed it. So let's get into it. This is the Pro Tools session from the original recording. I just have the kick showing because that's all I'm going to be talking about today. So first, let's hear the final mix. All right, and I'm going to show you how I did all that. First, I will bypass everything and show you just the raw kick. So nothing too special about that. One thing to know is what helps a kick drum sound is hitting hard and consistently, and that's something I really tried to do for this cover. If I was just tapping the kick drum head for those parts, I wouldn't be able to make it sound that great. That being said, I could always hit harder and more consistently, so the first plugin I used is Drum Leveler, so I could pretend like I hit even harder and even more consistently. And this plugin's great because it, first of all, levels out all the drums, so all the peaks are exactly the same, and then also has a built-in gate, which is great. So first, we'll look at the peaks of all the kick hits so you can see how inconsistent it is. So that's not terribly inconsistent or anything, but we're gonna make it better with this compression knob. And bringing this up basically brings all those peaks closer to this target level. So at 100%, everything is gonna be exactly at this target level. But I think that's a little weird to leave it at 100% like that, so I just bring it down to 70. Then I'm gonna throw on this gate. I did a pretty quick and tight gate for this. The hold is just 19 milliseconds, and the release is 140 milliseconds. And that does a great job of just tightening up all the kick hits and reducing all the bleed in between. And let's hear before and after. Great. Next, I threw on a compressor. I used FabFilter's Pro C. I did a ratio of 3.5 to 1, an attack of 0.5 milliseconds, which is not something I normally do. I mixed this cover about 4 years ago, and I just kind of did whatever I thought was right. I wouldn't normally do that fast of an attack, but for this I did, and I did a release of 58 milliseconds. And I'm gonna bring the threshold all the way up and then bring it down so you can hear what the compressor is doing. So here's before and after. So the compressor is doing about 7 dB of gain reduction, and I think it helps. It's just making it, to me, it's making it a little more punchy and a little more in your face, and also helping to further level out all the kick drum hits. Next, I threw on an EQ, but I'm gonna save that for last. So after that, I threw on a Transient Designer, and I used SPL Transient Designer. This plugin, it didn't do a ton. I just brought out the attack a little bit to kind of restore some of the attack and the transients that I kind of demolished with the Drum Leveler and the Pro C. And then I brought down the sustain just a tiny bit to further tighten up the kick drum sound. So I'll bring everything to 0, turn on the plugin, and then I'll show you exactly what it sounds like. And then here's before and after. It's not really doing much there. It's just very, very slightly reducing the sustain and tightening it up, and then just barely, barely increasing the attack. But overall, I like what it did. Next, I threw on the Slate Digital Virtual Tape Machine. In my opinion, this plugin is nice. For me, it mostly just boosted the low end, around like 60 hertz or so. So I'll show you before and after. Overall, I think it helped the sound. It just made the kick drum sound a bit fuller, but it didn't do a ton. So lastly, I threw on FabFilter Pro Q2. And this is the EQ curve I used. As you can see, I'm boosting the lows pretty good, 7 dB. I'm cutting out a lot of this low end stuff in between 100 and 500 or so, 10 dB at the max. And then I have a huge shelf at, plus 12 dB or so in the high end. And this is what really turned this kick into sort of like a trigger sound. I'll show you before and after just for one kick hit. So it really, really transformed that kick sound into a really punchy, modern metal kick drum sound. And I'm going to use this feature on the FabFilter plugin called the gain scale. And I'm going to bring it down to 0 and then slowly bring it up to 100% so you can see how it kind of morphs the kick drum sound. And one small thing to note is this EQ curve isn't making the kick drum sound any louder because I have the output gain down 3.5 dB. So if you look at the peaks and the meters before and after the EQ, they both hit about the same. And let's hear before and after on the EQ in the final mix. Cool. All right, and let's hear the kick within the whole mix before and after these plugins. All right, thanks for watching. If you want me to dissect any of my other mixes, let me know in the comments.